Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Wherever you call home, we are there. In favorite places. Large spaces. For many homes, we have coverage that fits the way you live. And with our home systems protection, you can cover major home appliances and more. We cover more type of homes than ever. Get the coverage you and your family deserves. For a free no obligation quote, visit us online or simply give us a call.
We're back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a great guest, former city council member of Laredo, an attorney at law, somebody that's been around politics, understands politics, and this has another great podcast, attorney George Altgelt. How are we doing today, my brother? You doing good?
Doing great, brother. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And all those who are just tuning in, Happy New Year. Wish this New Year is going to be great for everybody. But today, we're going to touch base on something that's in front of us right now. It's coming around our corner, and that's elections. And the way campaigns go, especially here in Webb County, what's a good idea to do your campaign on, what's not a good idea to do your campaign based on, who's going to win on our ideas, and what people do wrong to win and what people do right to win. And we'll take it from there. How we doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of an ongoing concern is that in Webb County, unfortunately, elected officials have been weaponizing poverty over the years and dangling, breadcrumbs like, turkeys and tacos and dances and instead of delivering the end product, which is that a government that works for everyone. And the cañonero system definitely is still in place as much as the state has made some inroads in trying to dismantle it. The currency of the realm, especially in South Laredo, is, well, what can you do for me right now so that I can deliver votes? And that's got us this far. I mean, if you look at city council's makeup, I mean, the strong influence in the South with that kind of that traditional patron partido viejo, back scratching system is why we don't have water security. That's why we don't have an economic development plan for the city as a whole or for downtown or the inner city. It's the reason why there are failures after failures by every metric is because we're still relying on this very dated system. And I think about the longevity of the retirement, the city's retirement funds as it relates to uniformed personnel and non-uniformed personnel. And I think about how just the police and fire contracts are negotiated, and it's an all-you-can-eat buffet giveaway, where at the cost to the taxpayer, these guys get everything they want. Why do they get everything they want? Well, there's a lot of great fire and police folks out there, but they don't get everything they want because they're first responders. They get everything they want because they participate directly in the political process. They donate money. to campaigns. It's why the development community gets everything it wants. And so you ask yourself, why are we this, sprawling mess that doesn't have funding secured for important projects like water? Well, it's because those aren't priorities for the developers and the unions. But I digress. I know we wanted to dive into a little bit on the county side of things. The Webb County judge position is being hotly contested. Essentially, the county judge position is like, who do you want to be the CEO for the county? Unlike the mayor of the Laredo, the county judge has very direct day-to-day executive power on the running of the county. And
Absolutely.
the I'm sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you.
And I said, and that changes things, unlike the mayor, because it's more ceremonial.
Yeah, the mayor is very ribbon cutting and breaking ties and stuff, and it's not as it could be consequential in a capable mayor's hands, but historically it's been like a wet piece of bread. But whereas the county judge position, I think we all should be looking at who is most qualified, and qualifications being, well, who's run a department before, who doesn't have a bunch of skeletons in their closet, who's morally fit and qualified for the job as well. And there's a lot of there's people, I think, frankly, that we all like, and that's fine. Liking someone is okay, because they're nice or because they're your neighbor or a human. But the lens that we're compelled to look through as citizens is a lot more focused. Who's got the acumen and the backbone to deliver what we deem as priorities, and I know that's kind of subjective, but for me, I'm heavily invested in this town. I've built a law practice here. I've raised some kids here. Uh, there's gonna be no Laredo for them to come home to if we don't have our water quantity and quality situation dialed in. Where uh, no one's going to want to set up shop here if the air quality is full of just diesel particulate matter. And no one's going to want to come back where there's not a level playing field. And I don't claim to know all the issues. I don't. Honestly, I've been really enjoying not being an elected official, and not paying much attention to the day to day, politics. But from what I'm not really hearing folks, candidates, talking about the water issue. And I don't think a one of them that is running has any experience in delivering water to a municipality. So here we are again, paying someone for on the job training. It's a scary thing. But that's kind of my initial take. I don't, what are your thoughts, Paul, on who's most, you know, qualified? I mean, if you had to vote right now, today, for county judge, like who would you trust to take care of the elderly folks, the young upstart that's trying to make an inroad? Who do you think has the backbone to take care of the taxpayer?
Yeah, let's go back a little bit, but I will answer that question. And let's put the players out there, because the players for those two that are tuning in. But here we have four candidates there, and I know all of them. I know three of them on a personal basis. One of them is Raul Reyes, who is the current Webb County treasurer. Then you have C. Benavides, who is just an entrepreneur and a rancher from Webb County. You have Karina Elizondo, who used to be a director of, I guess it was a pound of the city of
Yeah,
Laredo,
the animal care facility or department.
and then and she's a current trustee at LCC or LC now, and then you have Jerry Garza, who was a former Webb County commissioner and also who was a news anchor, and he's also a businessman here. So you have four individuals that three of them have been involved in politics, and the other one has always been trying to get involved with politics. And I'm going to step back a little bit more. And you mentioned certain things at the beginning that's kind of that is happening, and it's happening every election. The dances, the turkeys. It's kind of like a pattern. You run in March, you're gonna have to give away turkeys, and you're gonna have to give Christmas presents to the old folks and do some kind of dance or some kind of bingo night. And now you had Santa's sleigh for the kids in the neighborhood. Right now, everybody's going to run to the Menuda Bowl, and probably in the next 2 weeks, everybody's going to try to come out somewhere in the celebration of the Washington celebration, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And there's probably going to be some type of old folks dance for Valentine's, and then that's what they're going to do for their community service, as per se.
If they would spend as much time doing that nonsense as they would on water, like, hey, well, maybe we should be drilling some of our own wells here in the county and figuring out how to desal the brackish water that's under our feet and how to be capturing and incentivizing the capturing of rainwater, and how can we implement a zero escape ordinance so that we can conserve water. If they would spend as much time on water as they would kissing babies and shaking hands, then the county and the city might have a fighting chance at moving forward. And we got four people that are running, right? We've got CY Benavides. To your point, he's always wanted to follow his dad's footsteps and get his foot in government. You've got Karina Elizondo, like you said, Jerry Garza, and Raul Reyes. I can speak positively about all four of those individuals, and I can also speak critically about some of the things that one would consider. And let's just use that in that order. Like CY, honestly, he's like a man after my own heart. Like in many ways, he's a man's man. I mean, he's an avid outdoorsman. He definitely has found a way through the Boys and Girls Club to give back. I mean, he has that part of him. His family is very invested, if you will, in the legacy and success of the Boys and Girls Club, and I find that very admirable about him. He's handsome, he's charismatic. What's not to love? But when you take in a dive into some of his business endeavors, like the Camino Colombia toll road that ultimately ended up in bankruptcy. It was this white elephant. It was built out in the sticks, and it was a project. It was way ahead of its time, but ultimately, timing is everything, as is location. It wasn't well executed, and it ended up ultimately being sold to the state. The state picked it up. The state had to pump a bunch of money into it to keep it alive, and ultimately the toll part was gotten rid of, and it's now just Highway 255. And so I remember interestingly CY saying, "Hey, the Columbia Toll Road was like getting an MBA," and I thought to myself, it's kind of like studying for an MBA and getting an F. It didn't succeed, and then you had the dump, right? Where
radioactive dump or chemical dump or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was going to be like a step above household municipal waste. It was going to be like, and it was right off of a rail line, and it was upstream and upwind of the city. And it was right in the middle of where two creeks came together. It just, and I was on council at the time when they were trying to sell it to us, and I just thought this is a horrible project. And it's definitely not the type of project I would want to put in the hands of a private entity or individual, with all respect to CY, that whose Columbia Toll Road history is overshadowing perhaps his ability to follow through. And so I don't know. Do you want to put the county in the hands of someone who, claims to be a visionary but's never quite delivered on the vision? I don't know. I don't know what. Let's break CY down a little bit.
We'll break CY right now down, and I know him personally, and I remember the dump, and somebody made a wisecrack on the signs because I see signs and I look at signs and I analyze the signs, trying to see something else, and I started laughing when somebody told me this. He goes, "Have you noticed you wanted to place and he called it a chemical hazardous waste dump?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember it didn't go through." And he goes, "Look at the color of his sign and look at Webb County. It's neon green. Does he want it to be radioactive green?" And I started
Yeah.
laughing. I said, "Well, you never know, but that's kind of interesting that that color comes out, and that's what he wanted here." But I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying,
Poor color choice.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And
Yeah.
what occurs is that that went through. I remember one particular time he wanted to build the Emerald Towers that were right off of Calle del Norte and Springfield, which
I
were
remember
supposed
that. Yeah.
condominiums, high rise. I don't know how many floors, 10, 11, 12, 14. I can't remember which one. Maybe higher. And he wanted to place commercial setting. Great idea. It never went to fruition. There's a lot of ideas that people have that will never go through before for many other reasons, right?
Well, and plus, there's nothing like spending somebody else's money. And when you look at the data behind a high rise there, and whether the surrounding area can in fact support that type of a project. I mean, we can't even get the high rises that we do have in downtown to work because we haven't cracked that code. And there's a code that works. I mean, San Antonio's done it. Austin, every other major municipality, El Paso, even Brownsville and Eagle Pass and Del Rio are doing more important things with their downtowns and inner cities than we are because they're not so isolated. They've got professionals that are guiding them. We have a comprehensive plan that we put together back in 2017 that's almost going to be 10 years old now, that's been sitting on a shelf for 10 years. All those experts that we hired and those engineering and architectural firms, they've all gone on to do the things that they said we should do in our own city. They're
Well,
doing them in Miami, they're doing them in San Antonio, they're doing them in New York and in El Paso and in Del Rio and in Eagle Pass. Like Laredo's gift to the world, among other things, we've got um, Adrian Quesada, and we've got Amado Peña, and we've got the list is long. Miss Vera, the actress. The other thing we've given to the world is able city architects. Like the very best of us have been exported off, and they're doing their thing everywhere else, but
there,
here. I mean,
there,
they still have a presence here, but you know what I mean. And so,
yeah,
but nobody nobody's putting our own expertise to
yeah.
good use, unfortunately. But I've digressed.
But and we're talking on that way, and before we finish with CY, he ran several times. He ran against Richard Raymond, lost. Ran against Danny Valdez for county judge, lost. Ran against you and Jerry for commissioner and lost.
No, no,
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, 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 no.
It
Jerry,
was before you.
John Galo and I and Danny and Poncho and Mr. Cortez it was an open seat. For whatever reason, Jerry vacated his seat.
He ran against Jerry and he lost. So he's run
Yeah.
3 times.
But I've never run against CY.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were in that same race. I'm sorry about that. Corrected. Thank you. But so when you look at that, there's 3 races. People, when you run two times and you lose, 3 times and you lose, it's very hard to win the 4th. People are telling you something. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe they're jealous of you. Whatever the fact is, I think that's a negative. So I'm going to leave that out there. Do I think he can handle the job? I think there's going to be issues at first. Maybe it's going to be a term kind of like Louis Bruni, where he was talking and the commission was doing something else, and there was always a conflict. That's the type of Webb County that we're probably going to get if CY goes inside. But let's go on to the next person. Karina Elizondo. Karina Elizondo worked under you all when you were city council in the department. I think that issue with the animal shelter, dog pound, or whatever you want to call it, I think that issue is going to come out and haunt her. I think she's a charismatic woman. I think she's an individual that means well, but I just think that right there is going to come out and haunt her. Besides that, I don't know anything else of her.
Yeah, I agree. I think the animal control issue she'll have to contend with that. I will say this, anytime that the city wanted to get rid of a high-ranking executive, they would send them to animal control, because to be assigned to animal control is to be set up for failure. Because they're so understaffed, under budgeted, and the demand is so crazy that even on a good day, it's a bad day at our animal control facility. And I think she was set up to fail. I think that it was, I think it was Gordy Loca, or I forget who was, drumming up all the negative press to just, tar and feather her, not because Karina deserved it, but because Facebook pages like that feed off of the suffering of others. And so the magic combination of the suffering of animals and the suffering of Karina, Gordy Loca was able to bring those together and really just, embarrass Karina. But I think really, frankly, the mirror is being held up against us as a city. That's embarrassing to us that we can't even get our shit together to humanely take care of animals, and the way in which we do it, and the way that we don't care. Like, we just kill animals. Here in my neighborhood, by the way, interestingly, footnote, like, nobody here calls the pound. Like, we all get our shit together and find someone to foster and adopt, because we know that animal, it's a death sentence if you call animal control. And the way that, and anyway, so I think Gotti was set up for failure. Now, that being said, I've dealt with Gotti in her capacity as a Laredo College trustee. I represent teachers, professors, a lot of law enforcement, and citizens, but I've gone before the board at Laredo College, and everybody there, except for 2, maybe 3, of the board trustees are very hostile, very anti-student and anti-employee. The 3 people that are pro-student and pro-employee, one of them is Cari Elizondo. Full stop. Like, she would always ask the right questions to make me think that at least she's, giving the person a fair shake. The other trustees are horrible. They don't care. They just want to, protect whatever their political angle is. They want to protect the president, and they could give 2 shits about students and employees. So for me, Gotti gets points for being a compassionate human being. And me being on the inside at city council, I watched how they set her up for failure, and so I'm kind of like, you know what, I'm I'll I don't think that's as big of a deal as perhaps her other qualifications. You know what I mean? And I honestly I don't know him too well. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she has a master's in administration.
She
Uh,
has a master's of what I know, because I've interviewed her before, and like I said, she's very amicable, very like, and she knew what she was talking about. That's right when she ran for LC board, and then everything
she's
else
also
started.
very humble, by the way, which I think
And
is a strength.
apart from that, I don't know her. I couldn't say. That's the only one that I don't know on a personal basis. And so she might have those. I never worked with her. Never. Apart from that, that's it. Uh,
I, Jerry Garza, if we want to transition to Jerry,
sure.
um, I know Jerry. He's my neighbor. He's lives just down the street right here, about 8 houses. Uh, you know, I think he presents well. He kind of checks all the boxes for what a candidate's supposed to look and sound like. He's got that um, uh, persona of a news anchor, and that's going to resonate with some voters. And I believe he has. Does he have a master's in public administration as well? Have you interviewed
Maybe.
him yet, Paul?
Yes, no, I have, but I never. You know what? I don't. He might. He might. I've known him when he was first commissioner, right? And he was always very friendly with projects that we had that we were helping out with the youth. And he was very friendly. In fact, he started with us a Sabat club up in Peñitas, and they were the ones that we started that movement. And then so he was very helpful. I saw him very much involved as a commissioner. He was one that was very that you can touch base with. In other words, if you called him, he'll call you back and try to fix a problem. And if not, he was going to try to get somebody that can help out with that problem. So that's what I know of him as a commissioner.
He's got a BA of arts in political science from Texas A&M International. He has a master's of arts in political science and communication from St. Mary's. He has a bachelor of science in accounting from Western Governors University. Uh, I'm sorry, from St. Mary's is from St. Mary's. So, and then he has a Western Governors University at Texas Master of Science in Financial Planning. Uh, so, so that's his academic pedigree. Um, so I've enjoyed sharing podcast space with him on Sergio Mora's Frontera Radio. I thought he was always very thoughtful and advocated for the public's best interest. Um, but other than that, um, I'm I know that he was a county commissioner, obviously, for what was it, like 2 terms?
He was there for 2 terms, and then he quit. He just stopped, and that's when it opened up. That's when you all ran.
Yeah, that's when we ran an open seat. I'm looking at his Laredo Morning Times interview, and he's talking about securing a reliable secondary water source. That's good. Uh,
Talking
how to
about
go about doing it is going to be the interesting question. Is it going to be just relying on Walker water? That's a private entity that obviously wants to sell us their water. It's hard to get a competitive deal if you don't have options. And Tano and his commissioner's court saddled us with opting for only Walker water. And for those that don't know, that he married a Walker. And so, are we going to just blindly follow that? What I think one could argue is a conflict of interest, or is the county going to make use of the abundant water that's in northern Webb County that is by statute supposed to be for the children of Webb County? In other words, we could develop, sell that water to the city. The county could. The county could take a small, management fee, but the proceeds would benefit Webb County ISD, Laredo ISD, and United ISD as a source of money. But nothing has been developed, not even a feasibility study has been designated to see if that's even possible. Will the county follow in those uh, um, footsteps?
I don't know. I don't know.
Or,
That's a good question, but one thing that he did say when I interviewed him was that he was going to try to lower the taxes because there is a way to lower the taxes in the Webb County and to property taxes. And I said, well, that's good for me. We all fought against the raising of the bond for good reason, and so I think that's a plus. Apart from him being amicable with everybody and concerned when he was a commissioner, and he tried to fix things when he was a commissioner, is a plus for me as well. So he has two pluses on that. The next one is Raul Reyes. Raul Reyes is
right.
a was the mayor of El Cenizo. He also became the Webb County treasurer, and he's the current Webb County treasurer. So he knows the ins and outs of the county. That's somebody that knows how the county works for people out there. And Jerry, those are the only two really that know how the county works. So what do you think about Raul?
Well, he of all the candidates, I know of him the least. And frankly, that's probably why I'm going to end up voting for him, because he hasn't popped up on the radar for anything negative. And from what I hear is that he hasn't just, sat there idly by as Webb County treasurer, which is normally what Webb County treasurers do, right?
Right.
He has gotten creative and made recommendations for investing some of the county's, fund balance, and has been creative on generating revenues for the county, as opposed to kind of what we normally do, just let it, sit in an account. And when he was, I mean, Edison Easel is a challenging place, period. Even more so challenging to be the mayor of it. And he was mayor of it at a very young age. Like at a very young age, like he took it upon himself not only to get educated, but to come back and do something with his education. And as you hear there's problems with El Cenizo and Rio Bravo, but there weren't the problems at Rio Bravo of like the taking of money and doing really weird stuff. You didn't have those problems at El Cenizo. And so I never heard of any scandal about his mayorship at El Cenizo. I have not heard about any problems within his department. In fact, I've just only heard good things, that it's being run efficiently. And then
Yep.
I've I've met him a on occasion, and I thought that he's just very humble and a good guy.
my decision is between those two, between Jerry and Raul, and let's just see what else happens from here to then. But that's basically where it's at. I
Well,
look at
I ran into Raul at the Tellurico um uh event there that the Webb County Democratic Party held,
yeah,
and I ran into Raul and I said, "Hey, I heard you're running." And he said, "I can't talk about that. I know there's rumors out there, but I can't talk about that. If I were to talk about that, I might, like there's a, he implied there's a resign to run, whereas everybody else, you always hear, like, I've never heard someone tell me, hey, I can't talk about that. I got to play by the book, in politics. Normally everybody, hey, I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Chuy Dominguez has been saying he's going to run for the 111th, for the last 4 years, right? Even though for him to say it would mean he'd have to resign as the municipal court judge to run. Raul doesn't play fast and loose with the rules, is what I took away from that conversation with him, and so that I mean I agree. I think it is um, a uh, I think that Jerry and Raul um, have a strong likelihood of ending up in the runoff. But
yeah.
I will say that Gotti is not to be underestimated because uh, she knows how to work. Not to say that the others don't, but Gotti uh, is on the trail and is, hitting the ground. Obviously, CY is really well funded. I hear Jerry's really, well funded. Whereas perhaps Scotty and Raul have some campaign funding challenges that the other two don't. So it's gonna be interesting to see uh, who makes it into the runoff.
With that being said, this is what I've heard. And this is what I'm hearing through the grapevine. What's out in the street? It's everybody, because apparently CY's spending all money all over the place. Anybody he can buy or he can pay, pay, whatever you want to use, he's getting paid off for. And here, like you said earlier today, the cañoneros. So there's a lot of cañoneros that are traveling towards his campaign. But you saw that. I saw that because I helped him out when he ran for against Danny Valdez, and you saw the same pattern happen then. And at the end of the day, they didn't come out. They were just basically just grifting off of him.
Yep.
And guess what? He didn't get that much out, and he lost to Danny. So is the grifting going to take place? Yeah, it's going to take place. It's taking place now. So
You can't trust the cañoneros. I mean,
you can, and
we
people,
when we ran, and again, I mean, we ran in Little District 7 on the west side of town, where those tactics, they were not effective. But even then, you had these folks just like show up at your events to, get a free meal, and and promise you X amount of votes. And for us, we just turned them all away because, yeah, I mean, we've been at this for a while, and when I'm a criminal defense lawyer, and con la pura mirada a veces te dice todo, and you're like, just, get out of here. But in the South Side, where, and with all respect to South Laredo, because the Cañoneros and the people representing South Laredo, I don't think are true reflections of the people of South Laredo. But unfortunately, the ones that make it into office are like the creme de la creme of Cañoneros. And so you've got some of this, South Side Cañonero mindset is, get while the getting's good, and then they'll take from all the candidates, and in the end not deliver a single thing, and all they did was take money. And I've heard previously, on some of CY's campaigns, people, they don't see a vision, they just see money, and they end up, taking advantage of him
And
in that
that's
regard.
that's when it can happen. And what you hear on the street is this: CY, because of that, might end up in the runoff. But they say whoever's in the runoff against CY is going to win because people don't like that. They don't. So I'm like, hmm. So they said if Jerry's up against CY, everybody's gonna go with Jerry. If Raul's against CY, everybody's gonna go with Raul. If Karina goes up with CY, everybody's gonna go with Karina. And I think that's gonna happen because I think that's the same thing that occurred. What happened with when he ran the last time with Danny Valdez? That exact same mentality, and I think that's gonna repeat itself. And I look at patterns, I look at numbers, I look at the way things are going, the attitudes of people, and that's basically the signals of that.
Here's an interesting question. You know, I mean, I think, humility is a superpower, and um, uh, one of Thanos' attributes is that um, he's surrounded himself with some qualified people. They not not necessarily God's gift to governance, but Leroy Medford, he, Nathan Bratton, lawyers that are thoughtful and aren't afraid to voice their opinion. Um, este, I don't know Lalo Uribe well enough to know whether he's just a yes man or he's actually a capable adjutant
No,
that'll
he is.
voice his own opinion.
Yeah, no,
But
he's they're yeah, he is. Everybody that he surrounded himself with over the years has brought into the table of Webb County. So Webb County is that is not only do you have a judge, a person that's leading, but he surrounded himself with a lot of very competent and capable individuals around him. That is what makes Webb County, and they're moving as a unit. It's
And
not like the
Lalo comes from the banking world, right? He can look at a pro forma or a balance sheet and like provide data, data driven opinions, right? And so where I'm getting at with this is, of the four candidates, which one of them, in spite of their flaws, right? Because we're all flawed, at least has an eye for talent, and also has their ego in check enough that they're going to put qualified people that they'll listen to in key positions, so that we don't have a Louis Bruni scenario.
hmm, that's going to be that from a scale from one being the highest down to four. I think it'll be Jerry, Raul, CY, Karina.
Well, Jerry has a very high opinion of himself, and
I'm talking
um,
about surrounding himself with
like
people.
I'm talking about having enough humility to know that you don't know, and that you're going to go and find key people that that can give professional grade guidance, so that
That's
you can carry out the will of the people.
that's where my and let's take ego out off because everybody's egoistic. Um, I'll do it that way. I'll do Jerry, Raul, CY, Karina. And the reason I say CY is because in some of his businesses, he does bring in qualified people, and he surrounds himself with it. It's just something
But does
he
he
does,
listen to them?
and that's the thing. He
I
brings
don't know.
people in there, but does he listen to them? That's a different story. So and we don't want those same like the rainmaker when when Bruni was around, that he wanted to pay I don't know how many millions to some guy that was from Russia in Monterrey to send us rain.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. We don't want those visions to come out. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what we're working on. So that's the Webb County judge race. Now let's go to the next race. We got two commissioner races. We can hit the commissioner. Jaime has an opponent, Christy Rangel Bryant, and then also Commissioner Rosaura Wawi Tijerina has several opponents. One of them is a young girl by the name of Priscilla. I'm trying to think, Arispe and Gigi Rodriguez. Which one of those? Let's go with Ricky Jaimes first.
Yeah, well, let me just, in full disclosure, Ricky is a friend of mine, and I'm a big Ricky Jaime fan, and so um, I really respect Ricky. I mean, he funded his race almost entirely on his own dime. And to me, that says a lot. He also helped me when I ran for office without any expectation of anything in return. He's a firefighter. The fire union has historically hated me, and even though they hated me, um, Ricky stood up and advocated for me to get elected because he believed that I was gonna be able to deliver some results. And so Ricky has never shied away from a fight. I mean, I talked to him uh, from time to time, and he's generally said the same thing, which is, you can distinguish a politician from a leader one way only. A leader doesn't care if he gets reelected. A politician does, and so Ricky's just like, hey, like I'm here to serve. If you want me to be here to serve, aquí estoy. Si no, no te preocupes. Like I'll be just fine out there in the private sector. And so I know he also owns some businesses that have been successful businesses, and I happen to know he's a family man and very much cares about the legacy that he leaves behind. So, I mean, I think he's done a good job. There haven't been any scandals. He's just kind of in the grind day to day, working to make the county a better place. That's my very biased opinion of my friend Ricky.
I know Ricky very well. I knew his father very well. His father was trained by my uncle, and so were some of his uncles were trained by my uncle, who was Chilo Chapa. I remember his father very well when I was uh, a teenager training with my uncle. I know Ricky. In fact, we're very good friends. He was a student of mine, and just like you said, I think that if he is reelected, he's going to do a job. If he's not, he's going to go back and just start mounting his own businesses. Um, this young lady that's running against him, I think she's coming in, first time running. She came out of the risk um, Rio Grande study so she's very much involved with the air quality and stuff like that. I think that she's raised a couple of concerns, which I think regardless, I think those concerns that were raised, they're going to be addressed. And in politics, as you well know, there's a lot of people that run, and there's a lot of people that run, and sometimes they're running because they're voicing out a concern, and people are not listening to it. And I think she mentioned those concerns, and I think whether she makes it or doesn't make it, those concerns will be addressed to their totality. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's where that's coming from. I think politically, Ricky is very, very strong. That's all I have to say.
I think, and that's just a fact.
So it's kind
You
of
know,
like,
from yeah, and the West Side, frankly, has a pretty amazing coalition
yeah,
of probably some of my favorite elected officials, and I don't have favorite elected officials, but the few that I do have, they're all in that west side. Notwithstanding my successor at District 7, Vanessa Perez is the probably one of my least favorite, given the the fact that she's just such a liability to the city of Laredo. $6 million. But you've got, Judge Juan Paz, you've got
Liendo, Oscar.
Constable Lupillo Gomez, you've got Oscar Liendo, you've got Ricky, and you've got, last but definitely not least, she's kind of like the crown jewel of the city as far as I'm concerned, but Alisa Cigarroa. You've got this great block of people that day in and day out roll up their sleeves to see how can they serve, instead of, hey, how can I get reelected? How can I get my name on something? Oh, I got, that's not the vibe that you get from the West Side. Remember, and I always wondered about this, like, why are folks from Martin so crazy in love with graduating from Martin? And it wasn't until I represented some teachers and paraprofessionals from Martin and got to know folks that went to Martin, where, like, here you are deep in the inner city hood, and here's this school that, like, catapulted people off into the world, and they did well because they got their hard knocks at the very best that West Laredo had to offer. And so a lot of those folks that I mentioned are cut from that cloth. And so anyway, I West Laredo is a special place,
Yeah,
and it produces special people. Like, you can get away with bullshit in South Laredo. You can get away with the turkeys and the nonsense, but in West Laredo, folks are going to hold you accountable. Um, and Ricky's, part of that class of good folks. I don't know enough about the lady running against him. I'm a big Rio Grande International Study Center fan. I was, general counsel for them for a while, and I donate to them. I think Trisha Cortez is amazing. They do great work. They're the only organization that's actively protecting our only source of drinking water, which is the Rio Grande. And they're the only organization out there that gives two shits about air quality. And so, God bless them and the work that they do. I don't know what sort of a role she played with them or how long she was with them. But if you're with them, generally you're probably a good person. Um, but remember, like,
I think she'll see her again. I think she's going to be one of these politicians that's going to be coming in. She might not make it this time around, which is obvious because just because of the sheer numbers. But I think she's one that you're going to see either running for city council or running for school board, or somebody that's going to be involved in that area just because of the way she's been acting and moving. And I think that's it's a different. I think you're going to see a group of women, and we can talk about it once we finish. They're kind of going to be together, pushing each other up. And to me, I think Ricky's going to make that on this list. Now let's go
and,
to the other.
and kudos to her, you know what I mean, for stepping up in spite of all the odds. And maybe she didn't know just how much of an uphill battle she's facing when she threw her name into the hat. But I think it's admirable just the same that she had the gumption to throw her name in the hat. And I would encourage more women, please run for office. Every home I've ever lived in had a lady running the show, thank God. And we need more ladies, not less ladies, running the operations. Because if you leave it up to us cavemen, we're going to go screw it all up.
Yep. And here's another one. Now we go with Commissioner Tijerina because she's running for re-election. You got Gigi Rodriguez and you have Priscilla Arispe. How do you see that coming from that side? Commissioner Wow is another fellow attorney, and how do you
Yeah.
see that?
So, in here, I have to disclose my bias as well. That Wowie's a friend and a colleague of mine, and but uh, and so I'm a fan, and I think you would have a difficult time finding a lawyer in Laredo that would have something bad to say about Wowie. Like I've been on the other side of many fights with her, and she's always works hard. She's fair. She's pleasant. It's not like some lawyers. They're very few, by the way, but there's a one in particular that to have a case against him is just so much drama. It's the opposite with Wowie. Like, hey, let's just cut to the shit. A ver, mijito, let's just cut through the shit. What is it you're trying to say? Or what are you asking? Like, she's real, direct. And I admire that about her. Um, I have not been paying enough attention to know what the issues are for that precinct. So I'm not the best person to ask about Wowie, the elected official. I did have the pleasure of meeting one of the candidates for county commissioner that's running against Wowie. Her name is Priscilla, and very articulate. She seems like she's an entrepreneur. Seems like she's a really nice, pleasant person. I recently joined Rotary after the passing of after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and the governor of Utah's recommendation that, hey, build community, like touch grass, have get out of social media and go find humans to interact with. I joined Rotary. I was pleasantly surprised to find out she joined Rotary, and that's where we met. And she has this place called El Rancho Comal that makes barbacoa and pozole and menudo. I've been dying to go out there. I have not made it out there yet, but it looks like a great place. So she's an entrepreneur. She seems like a great lady. And then you've got Gigi Rodriguez, who's the wife of Rick Rodriguez, who's the former UISD school board trustee who basically got a contract while he was a trustee to um, clean UISD properties for COVID. I don't know how you do that, but he got a contract for that, and then uh, he was using his position at the sheriff's office at the time. He's been fired from there, but he was using his, or let go, or whatever you want to call it. He was using his position there, uh, and using deputies and jailers, as I understand it, to go do the cleaning work while they were still checked in. And so, I mean, is it unfair to judge Gigi based on who she decided to marry? Maybe I don't know. That's for y'all to decide. But it's to me, it's another like South Laredo um, uh, opportunist. But I could be totally wrong. Maybe she's a great stateswoman who's has a real vision for the county. But I don't know.
I'm looking at it this way. Wowie has a very right now the county is moving in a very positive manner ever since 2019 to here. If it wasn't for the county, Laredo would have gone under during the pandemic. And it was very hard because they're the ones that kept us alive. The county, our two state reps, our senator, and our congressman. So they kept it alive. They kept that machine going. So they've gotten very well polished. And I think it just needs some other ideas for the county to excel. And so we need people in there. Now, I've interviewed all three of them. I like Priscilla and her energy and what she's doing and that young entrepreneurship going forward. But I think she doesn't understand the capacity of how can I say, the political machines that are out there. And unfortunately, Huawei is very well liked, and the machine of Webb County is going to push for her. I think somebody mentioned that it might go into a runoff. Maybe so, and because Rick Rodriguez came from a machine of South Laredo for a very long time, so are they able to throw that race into a runoff? And if so, and if it does go into runoff, you're probably going to see um, our Wowie against Gigi. That's going to be the runoff. And runoffs are totally different than the
Uh-huh.
primary.
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
The primaries, and so it's going to be a total different entity. Now, are we going to have runoffs in after this general election? Yes, you're going to see the county judge for sure. So it's all going to depend on where it's going to go to. Now, my case, I think because of with everything that's happening, everything that's going on, I think Huawei's going to be the one that's going to come in front of because of the sheer numbers. And I don't know if
And
they're able.
she knows how to run a campaign too. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like she's
is it going to crack? Are they going to be able to crack that? And if so, they're going to go into a runoff. That's my prediction. Now, I think Ricky's just going to come ahead. Now we're going to go to. We got a two judges coming up of age. Let's go with a county court law judge, which you have. Uh, she's a Leticia Martinez, right?
yep.
It's Molina, yeah. And then you have, of course, Rose Cuellar running there. And how do you feel about that? You've worked with both of them.
Yeah, I've never really worked with Miss Cuellar. She was on the bench at municipal court while I was a city council member. She was kind of a force of nature there because she really was all about collections and not like hiring a bunch of associate judges. Like she was always trying to keep the overhead low and revenues up. And I mean, you know, I always admired that about her because most folks show up to most like department heads show up at during budget at city council to ask for more money to do more things so that they can work less. And she would show up with her budget, but she wasn't showing up with her hand out. She was, showing up for like, hey, give me the space to do what I got to do. And I admired that about her. I don't know her as well as I know Letty. Letty, Judge Martinez, has been sitting on the bench presiding at least for the last 4 years. And before that, she was a very active advocate, handling family law cases and probate cases, and handling some criminal defense stuff, kind of the general practitioner. And I've gotten to go. I've had frankly the privilege to go before her as a lawyer, and I've watched her very thoughtfully decide cases and resolve cases and push lawyers to show up with their A game. Like I always like to me, and then she's got a great disposition. She's very humble. When when she says hello, I've never seen her say hello without a smile. Like it's always like she's just like bright. Like she's got light inside and she shares it. And I think uh, uh, entrusting Letty with county court at law one is the most practical decision that someone could make if they were on the fence about, Rosie with her extensive municipal court experience, and that's fine. I mean, traffic tickets is one thing, right? Um, Probate and criminal matters and civil matters and family law matters like that, that zapatero a sus zapatos. Like you want somebody that's not having to learn on the job about how to do it. You want somebody that's already doing it. And let these, to me, she's already doing it. And in all fairness to the Cuellars, there's some Cuellar baggage that shows up, right? For better or worse. Maybe you're a big Cuellar fan and you like the Cuellar baggage. Me personally, I don't judge them as a collective, because there's the sheriff, there's the congressman, and then there's Rosie. Um, I think they're all very much their own personalities, but they all obviously they have a lot in common. And I happen to, like just because I think Letty is the better candidate doesn't mean that I don't like Martin. I think Martin is running a really big organization and for the most part runs it well. I personally don't have any complaints there, but Letty, maybe someone might say, oh well, there's the baggage from her dad, who is a school board trustee, but I see her also as her very much her own person. So I it's an easy choice for that county court at law number two, number
And
one. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna interject in a different format. I know both individuals, both families very well. Last year, both my father and mother passed away, and the person that was very close and the person that called and concerned was Rosie. Very very amicable. Besides that, so Rosie and I was, I consider her very close, in this sense of the word. But now both of them are capable attorneys. People might say yay, nay, but to me, I think they're both capable attorneys. I think they're both sat in the bench and they're both capable in that sense. You need somebody that has a little bit more common sense. I come from a lot of traits that you have to do an apprenticeship. I had to do an apprenticeship to become an executive chef. I had to do an apprenticeship to become a professor of Savant. And when you're underneath somebody, you pick up those traits, whether they're teaching or whether the habits or stuff in there. Now, both county courts, and I'm going to take it this way, both county courts, in my opinion, were very rotten to the court. In fact, most of the courts in Webb County are very rotten to the court. The only one that's leaving is
But you've had a really bad experience in that
and
lawsuit.
several things. But well, and I'm not talking about the lawsuit, but what I'm looking at
In
is
general, yeah.
the
By
only
the way,
judge.
I respectfully I disagree. I and I've
Listen,
been
listen to where I'm coming from, and I'm not talking
okay.
about no lawsuits, but both county courts, they deal a lot with divorces,
Right.
and in the state of Texas, 92% of non-custodial parents, 92% are men. In Webb County, 96% are men. So both courts were very much against the fathers. I hold that against both of them. Okay, one of the judges that's presiding right now is involved with the Family Law Foundation, which teaches you to be against fathers, to dramatically go after the fathers. So fathers don't have a shot.
Not,
When
but
the,
see, not always, man. But two of my biggest family law victories, they were both in on behalf of dads, and we
congratulations.
got really good
So some of the
decisions.
I witnessed this, and I saw it in the first-hand basis. Are those traits going to be passed on to Letty? Hopefully not. Okay. And if she's watching, I hope she can say, "Well, wait a minute, this is of some concern." So, in a good way, I saw many people, and I've advocated for fathers' rights in more ways than one. Stopped several suicides that are occurring for people that in those courts were not seeing their kids for many years. And when you have that detriment to a lot of these men and their suicide rates going up, it's very, very hard. They have to pay a little bit more attention unless they're already biased for whatever reason. And to me, they're already biased. So right now, we're removing a biased judge on that, and we're putting in somebody new. Are we going to put in somebody new that's going to continue this? Or are we going to put somebody else new that wants to work with them? So on my case right now, and there's issues with that. And Rosie and Mario Castillo, our heart is felt with the incident that happened with their old son. And I know that right there is more important than this race. But I actually think that either or, if Rosie gets elected for in there, I think she'll be a tremendous judge there. And if Letty goes in there, she needs to understand that there's that issue on the custodialship, which is there has to be fairness. And hopefully she doesn't go the way she was apprenticing under those two judges and works for herself. That's all I can say.
Well, I mean, I all of my cases on behalf of my dad's, where we won, we had the facts and the law on our side, and we were and we were able, and we had the resources to develop that, right? We had social studies, we had attorney ad litems, and we had uh, evidence that was persuasive, that where the judge had no choice, right, to follow what we wanted to get done. And for all of my clients that are women, where we've had those types of successes, we had the data and the law to support it. And whether it's Judge Villarreal or Judge Knudsen or Judge Leddy, the same metric holds true in my experience. Other than when Judge Chuy Garza, former Judge Chuy Garza, was in office, where it just mattered who the lawyer was. It was all political calculus in that court. We don't have that problem anymore. And I hope we never have that problem ever again, because that was so difficult to practice in that court, because he only cared about which one of his friends were the lawyers. And they were few, but that was a problem. And that's my concern with the 111th district
We'll
court
talk about that. So
race.
right now, to me, the person that goes in there has to understand that has a little bit more consciousness about that, what's going on in there. And a lot of decrees that are here, there's a nice little rule, and it's a penal code. It's called 2503, which interference with child visitation, which you all help us pass through the city. You remember that incident, and it
Hmm.
passed the city, and now it's part of the law. And Laredo is the only one right now that and if you have an interference, actually, let's go back a little bit of history on 2503. 2503, the penal code is state jail felony. So if you interfere or you do not allow the other parent to see the child, they're supposed to handcuff you and take you to jail. It's never happened. They've never arrested a mom in the state of Texas. But now because of of things that are coming up, we were able to place into the city and devoted an ordinance where if there is an infraction, a $500 ticket goes in there, go deal with the judge, and is given to the mom. Okay, the kid's going to stay with the mom or with the father, but they're going to get a ticket 500. Ask me if how many tickets have been written, zero. But yet we need to pass these laws there because parental alienation goes hand in hand with 2503, and the people that cement parental alienation into the ground once is the one holding the gavel. And we have to be very careful because there's a lot of stats out there on the damages that are caused to children. And if it's all for the best interest of the child, I don't think so. We have to actually protect the children because there is some parents that are deadbeats on both sides. And there's some parents that are loving and caring and don't want to be involved in their kids' lives.
And you got to pay your child support, right?
Yep, of course.
And when you get to when you look at the two guys that are running for the 111th, you've got.
We're talking now about the 111th, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the 111th. You've got Jesus Dominguez, who's been another traffic court judge, right? Who has been there for the last 8 years, running against Joaquin Rodriguez, who's a career prosecutor, and who is now working for the city of Laredo. And I personally have gone up against Joaquin in murder trials and in very serious offenses, and up against him at the city. I've watched him work. I've watched him grow as a lawyer. I would venture he could probably say the same about me. And there were only a couple of people at the DA's office that I really considered worthy adversaries, and he was one of them back at the time. Now that's full of worthy adversaries, but at that time, Joaquin was the sharpest knife in the drawer. And to win and to lose against a worthy opponent, as you know, as a warrior yourself, is an honor, right? And having Joaquin cut his teeth in the 111th District Court, he's tried numerous cases in the 111th, serious felonies, not like traffic tickets where you're a judge in a traffic court, which honestly, I mean, kind of going back to, with all respect to municipal court judges, like to me, like that's not real practice of law. The way a real district judge operates, like it's not even a court of record. And so and the differences couldn't be more. And we talked about child support, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if you saw recently, there's that flyer that's circulating about, Chuy Dominguez, or, Delincuente Dominguez, where, he's owed child support before, and he's owed back taxes before. He's owed credit card debt before. And so how can you have someone come into your court on a child support case and you're telling them as a judge, hey, you need to pay your child support, when, well, I didn't pay my child support for a little while too. I find it very hypocritical that he would even seek to be a district judge, knowing that he has these credit issues and credibility issues, and the one that doesn't have that couldn't be a more polar opposite than him, is Joaquin Rodriguez.
I'm gonna interject real quick, and I'm gonna interject. I remember all my kids are now aged out, and the month after my daughter aged out, for several months, I ended up getting checks from the state that I had overpaid my child support. Imagine that. I had overpaid. So I was getting checks, and I'll tell my daughter, okay, this one's yours, and next month this one's my son's, and I'd just go cash and give them back the money. But I was giving back money. So you can imagine how much. Have you ever heard of that? No, but the first one. So I'm kind of like,
you strike me as the kind of guy that would overpay his child support, and that's why I like you.
And I'm like, but I look at I know Chuy Judge Dominguez very well. Okay, and I've known him for a very long time, and in the sense of here in Laredo, I know him. I met Mr. Rodriguez one time when I went in council. They honored me for when I written that book about pugilism, the history of pugilism here in Laredo. And when I extended his hand, he did this to me and was looking away, and I was like, number one, when a man shakes a hand like this, it gives me a bad vibe. Gives me a bad vibe, like there's something sneaky about this individual. This guy's gonna try to backstab you. This guy's gonna try to weasel you around.
Well, how does not paying your child support strike you?
No, but that's a different issue. I'm still talking about the handshake. And all of a sudden, I saw him, and I go, he's going to be a credible individual. He's going to be upright. You're not going to see this. And then yesterday, that sign comes out, that flyer from him, and it's a paid advertising on Facebook. And I look like, man, my intuition wasn't right. It was right on that one. This guy weaseled himself into mudslinging, and mudslinging is not what you need to do. What you need to do is about.
No, no, no. I don't think it's mudslinging. That's your record. Like that's your record. You did not pay.
If he did something wrong and he didn't pay child support,
you didn't pay taxes. That's your record. You sent one of your you sent one of your associate judges from the city to go to Judge Pepe Salinas's courtroom to try to get a case resolved with Discover credit card because you didn't pay your credit card debt, right? Like that's your record. And if a candidate doesn't bring out someone's record, then they're not doing their job to address the swing voter as to, well, what are the issues? Because you're running not to be a dog catcher or a council member or a commissioner. You're running to be a judge. And what do we expect our judges to have? We expect them to have integrity, right? And we, like me, like I think you've got integrity, and because you pay your child support, you overpaid your child support.
Let me put it to you this way. The only judge right now, the district-wise, there in Webb County, county court into the district that has integrity is leaving. That's Monica Knotson. Then the next one I would say is Joe. The rest of them, I think the Webb County court is as rotten to the core. And they better come in here and do something else and really clean that up. And we need good people, good lawyers to stand up and say, I'm tired of this nonsense. Let's start getting back the integrity that needs to happen. Because right now it's bad. But leaving on that end, I think if he didn't pay his child support and he didn't pay those are his issues. But then you don't need to bring it out as a candidate saying, look, this is what he did. Let's burn him. You see, that's
how Monica got elected.
Who got elected? Monica that way?
That's how Monica got elected. She made it a campaign issue. You don't get elected by being a wuss on the campaign trail. You get elected by advocating for the position you seek to hold. And that means you hold the mirror up to the people that you're running against. I'm sorry, but nice guys, they all finish last.
No, I get you. And if, like I said, that little handshake like this proved my point. That intuition, Weasley guy. But so isn't he the one that cost us money? Did not sign a paper for some murder case and they had to transfer it over to Bexar County?
I didn't hear about that.
Let's check that out because I think that's
not the Joaquin I know. The Joaquin I know is a real stickler for detail.
Didn't turn it in, didn't do something, and all of a sudden now we're paying out the yazoos to bring a trial up in San Antonio. I think it was that Border Patrol trial.
I haven't heard of that.
I might be wrong, but that's what I heard. So I want to check that out. That's what I need to talk to some people to check that out. If that's true, maybe they can both put the gloves on and Let's see
No,
who
hey,
wins.
the name of the podcast is Gloves Off, dude. You ain't fucking getting away from that. Now you want to put gloves on? What the?
No, no, no,
Who
no,
are
no,
you and what did you do with Paul Buitron?
gloves on. No, but gloves on as a sparring match. Both of them, Joaquin and bow tie. What do they call him? Pee Wee bow tie. What's his name? Bow tie.
They call him Joaquin Bowtie Rodriguez.
Bow tie Rodriguez. Sorry about that. Somebody told me to call you Pee Wee. But anyway, we'll put bow tie versus El Viejon, and we'll
No,
put gloves,
it's Delinque Dominguez versus Bowtie.
and then gloves on, and both of them channel round. They put them in. Put both one
But
corner. One.
well, are you challenging them to a debate on Gloves Off?
We should.
Dude. I think you should have. I think you should have a debate.
We'll do a
Uh,
debate. If they want to,
yeah,
we'll do a debate.
you should have a debate
If they want to, we'll do a debate.
because
And if they,
nobody's debating. They have these forums and like no, que sacan los chingazos. Like you all should have a debate. You're both grown men, lawyers.
we've had,
Now, you know, Joaquin can speak in complete sentences and in English. I'm not sure it'll be a fair debate.
no, and if not, they can also put on the gloves and one corner, 1 minute, mutual combat. That's the best way. Then see, that's what needs to happen. We need leaders, especially men. I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about men that practice how to fight. Because if you practice how to fight, you can stand up for yourself. A lot of these individuals get elected and they cave. The first person that comes in there and yells at them tries to pull this mafioso tidbit narrative on them. They fold, and all of a sudden, bingo, they're out of whatever. And all of a sudden now we have stupid ideas that are turned into law or wasted money coming in there. Why? Because people cannot stand up on their own. They get bullied into submission. They cave. And the only ones right now that I can tell you that have practiced some form of martial art and boxing that are elected officials throughout is Henry Cuellar. He's a black belt in Shotokan. Our DA, Chilo's.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know he was a black belt.
Chilo's been boxing for a long time. He's been in and out of the gym. He's always been around. So then after that, Pepe Salinas was also a black belt. So they're in there. The rest of them. Can't.
Well, my brother, my time has run out.
But I want to thank you for this, and I hope everybody else out there likes it. And we're just here having mirth and banter. And these are our opinions. Everybody's entitled to their own. But if anybody wishes to come out here and express themselves as a candidate, please do so. You can call me. You can send me an email. You can send me a PME. My number's all over the place. In fact, I'll put it out there. It's 956-414-868. Doesn't matter. Just send me a text. And we'll be happy to have you and talk to you and see what you have. My brother, you take care.
Likewise.
And also, thank you for coming up here because you see things in a different format and we see things in another way. And coming together in crucial conversations like this, we can kind of see where everywhere's going. And if need be, talk to them and say, guess what? There's an issue over here that needs to be addressed. How can we do that? And a lot of people don't see everything. They get blindsided, and that's what you don't want.
And I recognize I got a lot of blind spots, just because I really just kind of not paying a whole bunch of attention these days, on purpose, and so I'm really grateful to have these conversations with folks like yourself, where we can share opposing opinions and fact check each other. And yeah, man, so keep up the great work, Paul.
I do. No, thank you too. And I really want to check out that stuff about if he was a cause of that. Check it out because you're pretty much in tune with that side of things.
Yes, sir. Okay, brother. Bueno,
Okay.
feliz año otra vez.
We leave you with this. You all stay safe, be safe, and God bless you. Until next
God
time.
bless.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Have you ever wondered about what happens in a martial arts studio? Well, you start right away by setting goals, building determination, gaining focus, building skills, all while becoming more fit, gaining confidence, and learning self-defense. Buitron Academy is a school where attitude meets aptitude. So give us a call at 956-401-4868.